It's gonna get wicked.
Somebody commented on one of our videos of you and I and said he sounds like Lex Friedman, but he didn't say who he was.
Which one?
I don't know. Like go to the go to
flattered or upset?
I'm
Go
gonna
to the
be
Instagram.
both, dude.
I'm pretty
like,
sure it
I'm
was
not gonna
on
lie, I would be
Instagram. I don't
both
think it was
flattered and
TikTok.
upset.
Go to one of them that's us. I can't remember which one it is, but yeah, somebody was like he talks like Lex Friedman. It was definitely a diss. It wasn't.
Bring him on. Be like,
Yeah, now that we bring that up, it's kind of funny. Yeah, during one of these, it's funny. We've posted a couple bites of these podcasts, and one of them got like 15,000 views. Another one got like 5. Another one got 9. And
Yeah, like here, I'll go.
3. No, I wish.
Yeah.
Like the one of population, 6,200. One before that about Marilyn Monroe being nude, 2,400.
Surprised those didn't get more.
You got time.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it'll continue to grow. It's funny though.
Yours got
Instagram's
4K.
Yeah, there's one that's got way more.
Yeah, this one's 11.3 life expectancy throughout history.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most. Dude, it's hard though. So like Instagram just barely. I've been growing this since March, right? I've been trying to grow these channels. Mm-hmm. Instagram I haven't received a single follow since September 13th. And before I was getting well over like 500 followers a day.
Huh. So who do you got?
300 followers a day. Dude, I don't know. I think they shadow banned me. Honestly. And you know why? It was ever since I posted one with Andrew Tate.
You posted 4 with Andrew Tate in a row.
I did, yeah. Well, everybody likes his shit, so I'm
Yeah.
like, he gets a lot of attention.
It wasn't on Instagram that they said.
Whether or not you even like him, the people that hate him can't stay away.
No.
Yeah, oh no, they
That's the
can't.
interesting thing about it too.
No, they can't stay away at all.
Dude,
Pigeons
they're
flutter.
addicted.
The one that says weak men are dangerous men.
Yeah.
Literally, that's like our most viewed recent video. It
Recent
looks
video.
maybe
and
not.
it's only like what?
They let you out a little bit with Michael Blackson.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
but
they
even
let you
then,
out.
no follows.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm wondering if they just refrain people from following me.
Maybe.
How do you get 0? How do you go from having over 100 a day to 0 since September 13th?
Has it literally been a stagnant 0 since?
Nothing.
September?
0.
Yeah, you
That's
got
definitely
shadow
a
banned
shadow
the
ban,
day
right?
that you posted Andrew Tate.
100%.
Well, the Matrix kicked him out, so
It's the Matrix.
Honestly, something like that. I hate
Let's get into it.
that people do stuff like that, where it's like my perspective is clearly more important than yours, and because I have my finger on the reg button, I'm going to make sure that people think so too.
Yeah.
That's what drives me nuts. I don't
That's-
think that it's
How
such
can
a
you
bad
pick and
thing.
choose?
I just don't think. Here's the thing. Like I don't like, even if you lean one way or another politically, it would be in your best interest and the best interest of those who look up to you to give yourself the benefit of the doubt to think maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to expand my horizons, or maybe I need to seek to understand, right? That old adage.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so if I follow one news source for years, it is
That's ignorant in and of itself. It doesn't matter which one it is.
100%.
It's ridiculous.
And so I have like rules when it comes to social media, like explicitly Instagram and things like TikTok, where there's followings and there's obviously trends and their
Well, and you can
algorithms-
pick your favorites. And
Exactly. Well, their algorithms will be like, well, Nate likes this, this, and this, so he's clearly going to like this. That was how I got introduced to Andrew Tate at all.
yeah.
It was just because I was like, oh, let's just see what the world has to say about masculinity. Because I was kind of getting a little bit ticked off about seeing such a drain of masculinity on a lot of films.
On everything,
and they're coming after it. So
100%.
I think it's fair to yourself, like you owe it to yourself to always be seeking out the opposite argument. Because there are shadow bans, and we can talk a little bit more about it after the show, because shout out to a buddy of mine, but he wouldn't want me to tell you something like this on camera, but there 100% is
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
like shadow
100%.
banning. So the way that I always bounced around on it, if you're going to follow one thing, what is the exact opposite thing of that thing you just followed?
And go
Yeah, and
follow
how
it, too.
extreme does
Find a
it sound?
page like that
Yeah.
and follow that too.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it provides added perspective, and the balance is what you need, right? Life is all about balance. But I did that with politics. I did that with my hobbies. I even, because I don't really like following a ton of people online.
Yeah.
It just kind of gets annoying to see everybody's highlight reel over and over again. You kind of compare yourself. So I had a policy when I started Instagram where if I follow one person, I have to follow 2 things or ideas.
Right.
So it was like,
that's fair.
Yeah.
like I make friends. Like if I followed both of you guys at the same time, then I would go find 4 pages, one on woodworking, one on gunsmithing, one on fishing.
I love it. I think that's a great
Yeah,
rule.
that's a good
Well,
rule.
and to add to the idea of like finding the exact opposite, I think part of it too is if you have this strong belief and you go out and you look for the exact opposite thing, how extreme does it sound now?
Agreed.
And if it does, the thing that you believe is probably pretty extreme too. If it's the exact
Yeah,
opposite.
if you're
Or
trying
at
to,
least seek out the most, like where am I and where does it get worse at?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Are you falling over that line too far? And I think most people are. I'd say on both sides, but obviously all of us would agree that it's the left side that's going.
well, yeah,
Extremely
no,
that
right,
way.
but like in some cases though, like I have found myself coming back to what used to be
Back
the middle.
to the middle. Yeah, 100%.
What used to be the middle on like things like, like growing up, it's like okay, like no, like drugs should be illegal.
Right.
Well, now I'm like no, like people should just be able to do what they want.
Yeah.
Where
Have the
that used to
freedom
be
to
very
choose.
far like to the left side of thinking. Now I'm like no, that's how it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
As long as you're not hurting someone.
there's, I mean, that in conservative cultures, especially around religion, a lot of the younger generation feel very similar. Or it's like, I mean, you can look at the hot topic about, what was this, 12 years ago with gay marriage, right? When Prop 8 was going on in California. Whoa, people were like, people got way more aggressive. They had no business being as aggressive as some people were about it on both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reality is like a lot of the young, like people around here, a lot of young people are like, dude, just 2 consenting people, leave kids alone, leave me alone.
Yeah.
That's fine. And if you do that, I mean, maybe that'll come back and bite people in the butt.
Yeah.
But honestly, at the end of the day, even if I have a belief that's completely contradictory to yours, I cannot vote for someone to use a military and a monopoly on violence to enforce what I think you should be doing.
And that's what
Yeah.
the government's pushing for, though. Is they have the monopoly on violence. That's what they want. And so they're the only ones that can enforce anything. Like, they're basically making themselves God. Like,
Well, here's the other weird thing, too. I mean, you'll read any documents about talking about FBI's, search for radical conservative groups. When was the last time you ever heard on a federal level the feds going after people on the opposite end of the spectrum?
well,
They
they're
don't
not,
have
well,
the
they're
same
not violent, Nate. They're not violent.
Clearly, right?
Yeah.
Summer of 2020 never happened. What are you talking about?
That one, like, I just, oh man, that was so bad. It was weird to see people actually believe that. Like, and that was the thing where it was, if you're just watching one news media, you're only going to believe one thing. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and whether or not, I mean, Tucker Carlson, Fox, or
Dude, I watched him for the first time the other night, Tucker Carlson.
yeah,
He's funny as hell to listen
He's
to.
a little out there, dude.
Like, I
He's
love
funny.
how extreme he is just because it's entertaining to listen to and watch.
Yeah.
It's same as who's CNN's personality? What's her name?
it's actually funny you ask. On that note, keep
Yeah.
going with that. But you know how if I say right-wing conservatives, give me
Yeah.
some hot takes on who you think represents that. Go.
They think Ben Shapiro,
Ben Shapiro,
Tucker Carlson.
Carlson.
Who else are they going to throw in? Well, obviously, they're going to throw Trump underneath that
Trump.
bus.
Trump, yeah.
They might even say
DeSantis.
Andrew Tate, even though he probably wouldn't agree with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't want that.
DeSantis, for sure. Now name the left. Go.
AOC.
That's their hero. That's it. And I think they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because up until that
Well,
point,
and she's attractive too. So it's like, I wonder.
she is eye candy.
Like,
That's true.
she isn't like that, let's be honest.
Yeah, she's pretty good looking.
But at the same time, like puke, just because of
Yeah,
her
some of the stuff, dude,
ideologies.
it's just like, man, you went from bartending to dictating policy at a national level.
Yeah.
We missed a lot of steps there.
Oh yeah,
And then like Madison Cawthorn, right? Big Republican conservative stud. He's kind of the golden boy, the pretty,
Yeah.
handsome fella. He's the stud. But like, it's just interesting because the left didn't, and I would even be a little bit hesitant to say AOC is the representative of the left. I would say she's the representative of the new left, the young left.
yeah.
Older
You're
folks
right.
don't know who she is.
No. You got
But-
Bernie.
Yeah,
But Bernie just gets stabbed in the back every
Yeah.
time he tries to do something.
exactly.
Like
Bernie Sanders.
he does.
I feel bad. He's a political pinata. They just
He is. Every time they need like a little bit more hype around their party, they're like, all right, we'll let you run again
yeah, exactly like,
until a certain point.
yeah, we're going to get this collective part of the left side of the spectrum under our train because we're going to give you enough FaceTime online.
Yeah. And then if you don't back our guy after
overrun
that, we're going to make you wish you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just think but that's the thing, like with Tucker Carlson and all that, you've got all these conservative, talking heads, all of the iconic group. That whole group is what you would consider conservative. They don't really have that on the left. It's not really monitored. It's not really looked at the same way. It's really strange because I don't even know if at that point you can say it's apples to apples and to find something opposite of it.
Well, the thing is, too, is with it, though, like the entire like media is the one that is the left, right? Like the entire MSM, the entire mainstream media is that giant talking head, but maybe there's not specific like actors or characters that are like more pronounced.
Yeah, I could see it.
You know?
It might just be like the Hydra, the many-headed beast, if
Yeah.
you will, which I could see.
Oh, red face in here.
Well, have you seen the
Yeah.
Have you seen the clip online of when some guy, I don't know who it was just online, but he put a montage of all local and state news. These broadcasters getting online and they're all saying the same exact thing, and it's nationwide.
Yeah.
If you find that, you should clip that in because that is wild. How,
Really?
dude, it's literally
seen it.
verbatim, word for word, and he turns it into like this mosaic on the screen where suddenly it's 1, then 2, then 3. And pretty soon it's like a 10 by 10 grid of just 100 different media outlets saying the exact same thing. We take reporting and news very seriously. We are here to bring you a clear and concise picture of what the news really is. It's just like very much like we're here to tell you and repeat it until you believe it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is
Insane. Where were we, though? There was something I was going to say. Oh, when Tucker Carlson gets all extreme, though, and you said it, you said he's very entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
How much of that do you think literally is just for the views? And how much of it do you think is actually trying to help the country?
After watching it for the very first time, I would say 90% of it's for the views. Because there are things that he's bringing up and he has like some proof behind it, whatever, he's showing videos. But I would say that even the left is saying some of those things are nuts. Right? Like honestly. So I would say most of what he's doing is just trying to pull views.
So
I
if
think
it's all
both
clickbait.
sides do it.
Yeah.
Everybody does it. I don't think that there's really like any like solid truth to any of the news you hear.
Yeah, no, there's
You
not.
know, it's all half baked.
The worst kind of people, though, are the ones that think that everyone has pure intentions. Like the ones that think that the government is just there
They're
for.
out of their mind.
I'm just gonna say it. It might be a hot take, but I think the worst kind of people are the ones that just think like that the news and politicians all want the best for you, and that you can only learn truth through the MSM.
I agree.
They're out of their minds, dude.
I would add to that, expect the best, prepare for the worst. But the rule that I've always followed is that everybody and everything is a for-profit organization until they prove it otherwise by action
Yep.
and the results.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, everybody can fake being a good guy or gal for, a couple days, couple hours on TV. But the results and like over time, you'll see like, okay, what is this really? What is this yielding?
Follow the money.
Yeah, it's always about money.
Yep.
That is a frustrating thing, though. The clickbait for clout, where it's just like, I'm going to say some extreme stuff just to get your attention,
Yeah.
but I'm not really sure. At that point, if I've clicked, like, what part are you serious and what part are you just talking to get me on?
Yeah, it's like the old joke, like you yell sex. Okay, now that I have your attention,
Yeah, exactly.
like
100%.
True that.
yeah.
100%.
What if did you want to jump into? I forgot about this one. What were we talking about? So I wanted to jump into the what ifs of something.
Oh, what's happening in
the
in Iran?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The
So
internet gets shut
give us a download on what's happening in
Fake
Iran.
towards the camera a little
He
bit
doesn't
because
really
it's
know what's
only
going on.
catching my face.
So
So a couple days ago, a woman was murdered by the morality police who practice a type of Sharia law. Sharia law is the religious law that the Islamic faith follows for the
Okay.
most part. And the different perceptions of how to best follow that law vary. Obviously,
Yeah.
this is not a worldwide thing. in Iran, particularly, there was a woman who was beaten to death for wearing her hijab a little bit too revealing. I think it was her hair. Like there was too much hair being
in a
exposed.
public space or something, right?
And yeah,
And she was beat to death?
They beat her to death, and the Kurds were done with it. They are done. So they're coming after police. They're coming after people that are, and I think it is the Kurds. You might want to check that one again because that's a big one, and you want to make sure the difference is right because they're different. But they, the low, like just the population's just sick and tired of it.
Okay, so now there's like a big uprising internally.
Huge. But
Literally
this is what's
huge.
scary. So they took to the streets.
That's a good thing, right?
Yes, but when you start looking at the human rights violations that government has done to its own people, let alone to the minorities around, that is a little bit scary when they cut off access to the outside world.
Right.
And with cutting off the internet, that's literally like somebody had a dead switch, said no more voice.
They just
no
turned the
more
internet
First
off.
Amendment.
Oh, that's when you were saying they just turned the internet off.
Like they literally just cut, like just like what they did to Andrew Tate, they just did it to the entire country.
Of Iran.
Yep,
Holy shit.
the entire country.
And they're mad because they're legitimately like these people are wanting their freedom. They're wanting their chance to express it. And here's the interesting thing about it, because there was I saw this clip today, actually. It was so back in the 70s when Iran had its revolution, I believe it was the president of Iran at the time was asked by a British newscaster, what's going to happen if these people who are now taking things over in a kind of a theocracy type thing, it was a religious-based government, what's going to happen? And the president of Iran then said, we're going to go back 1,500 years. It's going to throw us back into the dark ages. And now there's women being beaten to death in the street because they showed too much hair. That is nuts.
Literally, they have morality police, and that's
You're
what's
kidding.
happening. It wouldn't. I couldn't verify the Kurds. I could have done a deeper dive, but it's just anti-Irani.
Yeah, the
government.
The Ayatollah is what they call them, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure there was something to do with like the Kurds in there, but I could totally be wrong.
Yeah.
Either way, though, it's,
Like
That's wild. So what if the internet was
yeah,
just
so
shut off?
so imagine that. So the internet's shut off in Iran, but it's like in the article I was just reading on the New York Times, mind you, literally says that like the government has the right to like slow internet speeds on purpose to limit exposure. So if the government can do that, okay, that's going to cause its own turmoil. But what happens if the internet just goes down across the entire world and can't be put back up?
That's a really good question.
Like
honestly.
we're not talking we're not
but-
talking like the one where everyone thinks like the electric pulse and everything dies. No, like lights and stuff still work.
Yeah,
the
that's
internet
what I'm
is just
saying.
gone.
It's like
it's
how do you
not an EMP.
how do
It's
you
not an
identify
EMP.
that? Well, technically,
it's just the internet.
Okay, if the internet goes out, cell reception goes out, right? Technically, does that mean that satellites don't work? Because technically, internet's coming from satellite. So
Okay.
I feel like the question's deeper.
So let's say all like the internet, satellite, all that's gone. The only
Let's
thing that
just
still
pretend-
works is the old-fashioned landline.
Okay, there you go. Let's just pretend.
Do I have a
phones-
dial-up connection?
No
Is that-
smartphones, no
No,
computers.
no dial-up connection.
No smartphones, no computers.
A lot of people are going to be
Actually,
really upset that they lost all their followers.
Well, the only
online.
yeah,
A ton.
Well, I guess if you can still use like a computer to do math and things like that, right?
Yeah,
Then the only thing that comes out is or that disappears is communication and really speedy education.
Yeah, like a lot of things are lost though, dude. Like speedy education, but like work is completely changed.
Entirely.
Like
Back to-
my job solely functions because of the internet. Like I'm selling a software.
That's the other I'll bet. I mean, you kind of go back to more of a blue collar.
Most people are
state.
going to be out of jobs.
Entirely.
Hospitals,
better be good
most of their software connected to the internet.
Obsolete, yeah.
Like it's a full reset. I don't know. Like I feel like there have to be chaos that would ensue.
Yeah, but what would
But how violent would it be?
and can you get it back? Is it like, okay, if you put up enough fight, can you get it back? Or is it just, did it disappear?
No, let's just say the internet just disappears.
disappears.
Just
It got
disappears.
Thanos
It never comes
snapped
back.
and it's
okay.
gone.
It never comes back?
5 years, it's gone.
Bro. I think, okay, I always kind of go back to, okay, something else will be invented.
resilience of the human spirit is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. I love that. There you go. Good man.
No, you're right.
But
But
you know
That
have you heard
first
the
month.
saying? What is
cheat towards the
it's something
camera,
along the lines of like
just so it catches your face a little
it
bit.
is. We are 3 missed meals away from anarchy.
Somebody who said that. That's a famous
so
saying, though.
funny.
It's a thing. It's not my quote, but it's like when I started thinking about that, because when you say the internet went down, my initial thought was like supply chain.
Yeah.
Like everything is run through internet on supply chain.
Yeah.
And you are going to run into people who in 3 meals are going to get really violent if they don't have a way to take care of their
It was Lenin.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Who said that quote?
Yep.
Vladimir Lenin.
Yep.
Well, there we go. You know, he was good at making sure people didn't get food.
Vladimir Lenin.
So,
That's funny.
Yeah.
dude,
Every society is 3 missed meals away from anarchy. That was his quote. Which, I mean, dude, think about it. Like, you go back to 2020, like the supply chain shortages we had then, toilet paper, food. Like, I remember walking through Smith's with you.
Yeah.
We were just looking for like something like taco seasoning,
Yeah.
and you couldn't find it.
No.
people
And
panic.
people were panicking.
And that was by all accounts a small fraction of
Of
it
what
be like.
would happen if the internet shut down.
You can't get in touch with your family. You can't reach out to your friends. You don't know where the next food. You don't know how to regroup with your boys.
Yeah, I don't have a
But you know
landline,
what's-
so I'm not even going to be able to call my parents, who are only
Yeah.
a 35-minute drive away. Okay, I guess I can just go see them.
But let's say, okay, so let I'm going to take it a little more political again. Okay. So let's say this stuff, what if it disappears slowly? Anarchy's a lot further away than 3 meals.
Like, is there like a countdown timer that's like?
No. Okay, for example, like how far can you take it before somebody realizes, oh shit, we're in a bad spot? It's kind of like the lockdowns. Like you go to.
I don't know, dude. I think that way you could slowly force people into things. Like,
Well, I mean, right now it's going that way.
That's
Like
exactly
things are
what I was
becoming
saying. I
more and more
totally agree with
limited,
you.
but people aren't
Yes.
really doing much about it. Like,
No.
like
Smart ones
the
are making moves.
Yeah. The voices are getting a little bit louder, but anarchy is still so far from happening because there's so many of those people you were talking about.
okay, this was in the back of my mind, so that this might be a good transition point. The internet has changed human culture in a complete way. Just like you said, like a lot of people are gonna be mad about their followers, dude. Before social media, the only people that had followers were freaking priests and like preachers.
Oh yeah,
And like
religion
and,
was
and real
were the
celebrities and
yeah.
real celebrities. Now, dude, everybody has followers. It's just how
You
many
can be
followers do
hot
you
and
have?
have
Yeah.
8 million.
You can
followers,
have-
which is
You can be 18 and be
Nuts,
really
right?
hot and millions of followers.
they be living life on easy mode at that point. Your free
Literally,
stuff
though.
just for being hot.
But it's like how if you bring someone from like the 1800s into today's world and you're like, hey, all these people have millions of followers.
I don't know.
Like-
I don't know what you. I think whenever you bring up situations like that, I think like you said, people kind of
Adapt quickly.
adapt very, very quickly. I would say somebody from the 1800s, like after about a week, it's kind of like, okay, I have to deal with where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's a sink or swim.
This is the world, right?
Okay. That brings me to the next point though. Just like we just said, they're already slowly limiting us and taking things away. I feel like that in part has to be because of the exposure that one voice can have on the internet.
Yeah, you're right. It's because more people have a voice. People that shouldn't have a voice now.
Literally.
Yeah.
But that's kind of isn't that sort of ironic to say when it's like, what makes you think that they shouldn't have a voice?
Everyone should have a voice.
Everyone should. But how
I know
about,
what you're saying.
But yeah,
like,
but
that's the thing.
yeah,
But people that
The
like
guys in Iran
yeah,
are
and-
saying that none of these
yeah.
none of these cats are allowed to talk. We're going to take away their ability to communicate. Like that's an interesting
Yeah.
point. You're right.
But it's funny too that the people that are actually intelligent and correct are the ones that aren't heard as much anymore. Like why is it that the truth is something that's kind of ran away from now?
I would submit that that's because it's completely to do with culture that we've put on ourselves. Our culture as
Just
a
a
country,
cultural.
our culture as a country is nihilistic. It is all about self-aggrandizement. It is all about gimme, gimme, gimme. It's all about the quick dopamine hits.
Yep.
Very, very few
13-second attention spans.
Correct. Very few people are in the business of dynasty building anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of the elites, all of the wealthy people have dynasty. They have a legacy. They have children. People are not interested in having kids anymore. And it's wild to think that all of these people who are out here seeking attention online, like, take that away, you have nothing. So what, you could even walk it back. All right, so who are going to be the people that understand? Who are going to be the people that will succeed in a place that doesn't have internet? Well, I would bank that it's probably the same people who will probably succeed without electricity.
Yeah.
And all the people, all the harder ones, like the guys who can succeed without indoor plumbing, the people that can succeed without water filtration, the people that can succeed without electricity, without heating, that small group of people will do very, very well and even better.
It's all the
without places like
FLDS people.
Probably.
Dude, it's all those dudes freaking building
All
their
from
mud
the
huts.
preppers,
Their
yeah.
mud huts out in the freaking
Oh,
jungle,
there you
dude.
go, yeah.
Well, that's their
Out in the
gamble,
jungle.
right? But I think you're right. The guy in the
Philippines.
1800s, if he pulls up and it's like, no, he'll be fine in a week, they'll adjust. I think it'll get really tribalistic.
Yeah.
Like people are going to want to hang out with their people. They're most really, what they really are most associating with.
Well, that's how it all goes back. That's how it reverts, is you go back to your tribe, right? Like when shit hits the fan and the world comes to the point where like, hey, brink of destruction, civil war happens, everything goes back to a tribe.
Yeah, everybody goes back to their people,
Yeah.
which is just incredibly natural, right?
Yep.
But it's funny to think about. I would say somebody from the 1800s probably is more naturally drawn to that than we are.
The tribalists?
Yeah, the tribalism.
Oh yeah, that's how they were still
they were
basically
surviving.
living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
The
I'm
survivals
wondering
were-
if there's an actual like psychological change just from then till now.
There has to be. That's what I'm saying with like the
Yeah.
fact that like there are literally people with millions of followers now that used to not exist.
Yeah, it's wild.
People have gotten very complacent. When I left high school, this was my idea when I left high school, and I'm doing okay with it now, but it's still kind of how I keep my hobbies and my passions and my fixations and stuff I like to read about. You kind of start with the bottom row. Okay, let's go apocalypse level trade, right? If worst happens, I have the ability to go and work on industrial fishing boats like I used to.
Fake
Right.
your face that way a little bit.
Oh,
Just until it grabs your face.
Got
So when you first start talking, here and then do whatever you want because it just has to catch. Anyways,
all right. Well,
you're welcome for breaking your role.
something I taught myself, or I learned myself at least when I was younger, is learning how to base your value and worth on different scenarios that you find yourself in. So we're in a tech-rich environment, right?
Yeah.
Learning how to, I don't know, till the earth is not exactly on my to-do list because I
Right.
live in a place that has asphalt and everything is already landscaped, right? But if worse came to worse, what would happen? Okay, so then I thought, all right, let's think of an apocalypse trade, right? Let me think of something. If I am
Right.
unable to do anything else, if all the electricity went out, can I still feed myself, my family, my loved ones? I chose to do that with fishing. I'm pretty dang good with that.
Water world, bro.
But then beyond that, it's like, all right, well, let's look about blue collar stuff, right? What am I going to need to do? What am I trying to learn in order to know if the internet is down or if life as we know it, the quality thereof plummets? How am I going to be competitive in a world where there are going to be a lot of people just trying to grasp and pull at anything they can to make money or feed themselves? So I thought, okay, well, let's look a little bit more. Let's get proficient with things like firearms. Let's get proficient with things like homesteading. Right now, one of the things I'm trying to do is learn how to butcher a cow and other livestock from nose to tail. And I'm learning how to do
That's
that
dope.
step by step. Well, thanks. But it's like, it's so weird to think about because we all think it's cool. I thought it was awesome, right?
Yeah.
I made beef stock the other day with lard and I rendered lard. And I just thought I was like MacGyver. And that was a normal household
Right.
activity 50 years ago. Lard was
Literally.
sitting on everybody's counter.
Yeah,
Everybody-
exactly.
Yep.
And now it's like,
Wild.
There wasn't Crisco. There wasn't like Pam in a can.
Yeah.
precisely.
Yeah.
But you know what's wild is that we are the exception to that. Everywhere else in the world, they're still doing that. They still know how to butcher animals. They still know how to farm.
But you know what's wild about those kinds of things, though? They're looked at as very, like, right wing
Extremism. Yeah.
views,
Yeah.
which it's like, okay, even if it wasn't, you're not doing it for the sake of like apocalypse, right?
Yeah, just
even if
hobby
you're just
farming.
doing it for hobby and fun, like I feel like anybody could find enjoyment in those things. I don't know why it's looked at so extreme.
It's
Who knows? Maybe cutting the internet off might make people happier.
Right, exactly. Honestly, no, that's the other thing. What if?
Yeah.
It might. But you like, all right, so how do you become competitive in an apocalyptic world? Like, okay, in the wrong circles, if I say like, oh, like I went hunting this weekend and like butchered it out, that upsets people. Mm-hmm. But the other part of it too is like going and like tilling the ground or learning how to plant like fruits and vegetables and learning how to grow them. People don't want to do that necessarily. Like if you
there's
think
a laziness
they
piece
consider
to it.
beneath
100%.
Yeah,
There's a
there's a
laziness
total
piece to
laziness
it.
piece to it.
Or blue collar jobs are seeming less and less desirable.
But if you think about it, everyone used to be named after a blue collar's job. It was like the Smiths. Okay, well, you're a Smith.
Shout
Yeah,
out.
Literally.
100%. Yeah.
Like
The bakers.
the bakers.
The bakers, yeah.
Exactly. Like, okay, I don't know what the butchers were, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like everyone was classed into their job.
Yeah.
And now, dude, there's literally History Channel TV shows about people being Smiths. And it's entertaining to watch because there's only like a few people that know how to do it.
Yeah.
So if we had to revert to an apocalyptic world, like those few
honestly-
people are going to be millionaires.
It's true.
Oh, 100%.
Warlord
and-
status.
Literally
And I
warlord status
think
because they
you're-
know how to make an
yeah.
axe.
Yep. And I think you're right. I think the world becomes more enjoyable again.
I agree.
Right? Attention spans become longer. We can listen to somebody debate and that becomes entertaining.
Well, yeah, and I just think that like the dopamine addiction,
Honestly, right?
No,
Really, though.
you're absolutely right. Like I think that was one of the things that what made podcasting so cool was that people realized like I don't have to hold myself to a 30-minute show time before
Yeah.
things cut to commercial. I can do this. I can talk like a human again.
Yeah. Well,
True that.
now it's common to have 4-hour podcasts.
Yeah. And coming
And
from
people
like all
watch.
social media, it's like I want to go and bullshit with my friends again.
Yeah.
Like when was the last time you went and sat down and just chatted like this? It's very rare, right?
last
When
week.
Yeah, probably
Last
when
week,
we
well, good
talked
on you
about-
guys, right? Well,
that's not normal though.
No, it's not normal
but
for
that's
me
why
either.
you go to lunch, right? It's like let's go to lunch together.
But lunch is like you got like 30 minutes to do that.
Every time people get together now, it's to go and eat,
Yeah.
and it's because it's the only time you can give yourself to chat.
Yeah.
Outside of that, when do you give yourself time to?
Well, dude, I'm trying to remember
That's
who
one
it
of the
was.
reasons why. Here's actually something to add on to that. So when it comes to wartime, if martial law is in place, and oftentimes you can look this up with policy of the occupying force, including even in our own country back in 1770s, right? Mm-hmm. People were not allowed to congregate in large groups in the 2 or 3 places that people could congregate: school, church, tavern. That was where they got shut down. You couldn't, like in groups of 3 or more, you were considered maybe a threat.
Well, okay, now that's crazy though. You're
Wild.
saying that. You know what that just triggered in my mind? COVID. They wouldn't let you congregate even in church. And they're saying it's because of the spread. But dude, they were pushing some crazy crap on us too at the same time. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, I think we're gonna look back on that in 50 years, and everyone's gonna go, "Are you serious?" Is
Yeah,
that not-" like they're gonna think we punked them. We pranked
In
them.
50 to 75
Well, and to
years
go
when
back-
Pfizer wants
yeah.
to release the data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and when we go back to it too, I think people are going to be surprised. Like, wow, why did so many of you just put up with that? It goes back to that slow onset.
Yeah. If we're not living in Ready Player One by then, which
It's true. We're all hooked up as power sources, and
That's
they
fine.
just got
Being
VR
trained.
goggles.
Then I'll be a millionaire. Let's go.
Fair enough.
Video games. Let's do it.
dude. Dude.
I do think though, I would submit this is a very interesting one. I think a lot of people not only would improve and be happy, but if you deleted the internet, I wonder how much addiction would start manifesting. Pornography, for example,
Yeah.
probably the most prolific addiction that nobody talks about.
In
That
the
is
history of
probably-
mankind.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of back to the 1800s
Yep.
guy, right? Jordan Peterson says, you bring some guys from 1800s and expose him to like more beautiful women in one day than he'd seen in his whole
Oh my
life.
gosh.
And it's like,
Oh, I
well,
forgot about
it's
that.
so
I
weird.
love that.
But you're just like, dude, the guy's right. And you start thinking about like all the people that can't like get their addictions off from either, not just from like something as extreme as pornography, but also attention. TikTok, like just that mindless, that place you go when you don't want to think and you just start scrolling with your thumb and your thumb gets super muscular because all you do all day is just swipe, swipe, swipe. Online dating, swipe, 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 gone. Instagram famous people, gone.
Kind of a lot of thumb atrophy.
Yeah. Handshakes are going to go back to what they were meant to be. You know?
A lot of thumb atrophy. Dude, I've got a massive muscle right here, bro. Watch out. Used to from playing
Thumb war
video
king,
games.
man.
From playing video games. Dude.
Oh, okay.
Right here.
I was
Right
thinking
here,
thumb
you'll
war
get a
champ.
muscle
Yeah.
like this, bro. Just huge.
He's jacked.
Watch out, dog.
Just jacked thumbs,
Hand
dude.
model,
Just jacked thumbs.
Jacked thumbs.
Yo.
Wild. I don't know. What if? Who knows?
Well, should we hit our today in history piece?
Yeah. At the very end of the pod.
Well, dude.
We probably should have hit that towards the beginning.
Nah, we got two more. I mean, we can go all night, but
Yeah.
today in history,
Talk to us.
Abraham Lincoln released the Emancipation Proclamation. No, I'm not that smart, so I'm gonna actually look it up. But cool thing about it is he actually wanted to do it at the beginning of his presidential term. That's what I was reading earlier. Yeah, he wanted to do it earlier on. But his cabinet and like his advisors pressured him not to because the war was still going on pretty heavy, the Civil War.
Makes sense.
And so they were worried that if he released that, any support that they might have been able to pull over from the South or any political
Wouldn't have come.
jockeying
Yeah.
would have been a lot harder to
Yeah.
like push through. Because also there might have been a few people on the Union side that wanted to keep slaves in place. But on September 22nd, 1962, he issues a preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. So basically, he like sent a letter out saying, "Hey, on this date, all of the slaves are going to be
Mark
free."
your calendars.
Yeah, no, that's
That's
literally
wild.
what he did.
That's a power move right
That
there.
is a
too.
power
Can you
move.
imagine
Yep.
just being that kind of guy?
It's kind of like buying Twitter, you know?
It's like that poll. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's true.
literally though, very similar.
Internet shuts down. Elon's way out of money.
Yeah, exactly. Huh?
So he literally just left it in
shit.
place only for border states, and it was 100 days. So like, on September 22nd, the president announced that enslaved people in areas still in rebellion within 100 days would be free. So he just said, "You're free."
Even southern states. He's like, we haven't really won yet. We're not really. Is it at that point? I don't know my history with the Civil
So
War.
it was kind of coming to an end. Like it was pretty well wrapped up. Like July, I think, is kind of when it started to wrap up of the year. So on September 22nd, which is today, is actually 100 days from January 1st, just so you know.
Huh.
Yeah, so there you go. So he said you have 100 days. So January 1st, 1863, he issued the final Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all persons held as slaves within rebel states are and henceforth shall be free. Boom.
There he is.
I'm going to keep going on this. This is
Yeah.
the part that blew my mind the most.
Okay.
So political jockeying, right? You think about it. The other countries like the British and the French, they had been supporting the South in some ways during the war. But then once he released that statement, they had to pull their support of the South because they were not like you couldn't have slaves in those countries. Yeah. So they pulled their support, which kind of was the final tipping block as the war was coming to an end.
That's wild.
So it was just
That's
the right ace up his
That is
sleeve.
that's a gutsy move, but the timing was perfect. On
Yeah.
that. That's way cool. Holy cow.
It's pretty sad though that like that's how it was like happening with people's literal lives. Like talking like slaves, which is kind of crazy, but
Did you guys know that he was a vampire slayer?
Saw the movie, dude.
I
It was a
watched that
great
movie on an
documentary.
airplane.
Honestly, it was a really good movie.
Actually, we
I
watched
told
that
you to
movie on the
wa-
airplane
we did.
together.
It's a-
And
Flying
I
to
said
Dallas.
it. I told yeah.
It's a cult
Yeah.
classic. That's right next to Kung Fury.
It's I don't think I've seen that one.
I haven't, but I've been wanting to watch
That
it.
movie is something else, man. It's, you got to watch it, but just go in expecting nothing, and you'll
Yeah.
really enjoy it.
Kung
bet.
Fury.
Kung Fury.
Who's in it?
Kung Fury.
Nobody that
Okay,
nobody
not-
that any of us would
it's
know.
not
it's
low.
cult-
It's not
yeah,
like it's not John Wayne doing a spaghetti western. It's not like
no, this is
Jackie
like-
Chan.
This was like a crowd-funded movie that legitimately just picked up a couple $1,000s online, and they crowdsourced it.
Huh.
So I don't know. The only one I could find besides your Emancipation Proclamation, which I think is the big one for the day. I can't think of anything else. The only other one was the war draft numbers for Vietnam.
What was that?
Well, so back in the Vietnam War, the draft was active. It was the last time
Right.
the United States draft was up, and then so back in the Vietnam War era, every day a lottery number would be called. You were assigned that number. If your number was called, congratulations, you are now a member of the armed forces, and we're going to train you and
Yeah,
ship you off to
that's-
Vietnam.
That's what you see in the movies is them calling.
So
an actual
today was the
number.
day they called the numbers.
Well, today was it was number 160 in 1969, and then in 1970 it was number 88. If that was your number,
Oh wow,
You were called.
Congrats.
that's
you're
wild.
up.
Yeah, you were up.
So those are the unlucky numbers of the day.
yep, you could dodge the draft up in Canada, or you could strap up and head out.
Yeah.
Have you seen? Here's what's nuts: the Ukrainian conflict right now. Vladimir Putin just announced that he's going to mobilize another 300,000 Russian troops.
And are they all inmates?
So actually, what's the name? I think it's called Wagner. There's a military contractor group that's based primarily in Russia, and they do a lot of work there. So they were very present in Syria, and so these guys also apparently just walked into a prison and said, "Hey, fighting for us for 6 months grants you your freedom."
I
There
saw
are
the
certain
video.
Contingencies
Yeah.
like you can't have been, like you can't be out if you've been convicted of a violent like assault.
Yeah, no
or
rape or anything like that.
and it's also stuff that we won't tolerate, where if you do this, we're just going to execute you. But like, if you want to sally up for 6 months instead of your life sentence, yeah, we'll take you. And then it got even worse because now they're going around the towns and they're just straight up pulling people off the block. In Moscow right now, this is another one of those internet things where it's like, with Iran, where they shut it down. Russia doesn't like this. When they announced that flights out of Russia were all bought out.
Oh, I guarantee
Everybody's
it.
trying to get out of there ASAP. Because now in Moscow, for example, where there were protests, the police actually would arrest them. And then when they were out of prison, they gave them their conscription paper and said, "We'll see you tomorrow on the bus. You're going to the front." So they took the protesters and are shipping them out to fight in Ukraine.
Damn,
Dude, we live in a crazy world because then what's happening on the Ukrainian side too is you might not have seen this. You've probably seen it, but they're handing out flyers to these Russian soldiers with QR codes on them, saying
Flyers?
scan this. Yeah, saying scan this code. If you are willing to surrender, we'll take care of you. You'll be assigned like a place to live. We'll keep you hidden. You'll be a refugee with us. If you don't want to fight this war, scan this QR code. We'll help you.
You can literally defect,
You can defect
and
via
we'll-
QR code.
which is nuts.
Insane, dude.
also a crazy part of the world. That's nuts.
Yeah. Just a random QR code. But I mean,
But if the internet didn't exist,
No, it wouldn't happen.
white flags is your best bet.
Yeah.
White
there's
flag.
The
there's
white
no
flag
guarantee
has
you're
been
getting past
replaced
the
by a freaking
no man's
QR
land.
code, dude. That QR code technology didn't exist when we were kids.
There was some guy at BYU who,
Yeah, 3 of them.
yeah, he played.
Well, they
for the
did this.
He sold
soccer
it
They
to
did
team.
this
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
Yeah, that's what it was.
he sold it to Snapchat.
It was called Scan Inc.
Yeah, for $50 million.
Well, I just know because I saw he was
51
on
million,
Shark
something like
Tank.
that. Yeah.
And then they just sold all of his savings, and he and his wife and kids are like floating around and living on savings. They haven't even gotten into the money that they made from scanning.
It was
Yeah.
Scan Inc. Yeah, that's what it's called. So there's 3 of them. So the one became the bucket list family guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
And they had 2 other partners. One of them just built a massive house here in like Highland,
Oh, word.
like 30,000 square feet or something ridiculous.
We met the bucket list guy, but I don't think we ever met the other two.
No, I don't think we had met the other
This
2.
is all just from. I mean, he was a one and done. He's like, "We got Snapchat."
No,
We're
so
done."
He's done
the
a couple
bucket list
things.
family dipped. The other 2 actually went and worked for Snapchat, I'm pretty sure. So they went and worked for Snapchat for a while, got a bunch of stock, and this was before Snapchat like really blew
IPO
up.
and stuff.
So,
I mean, they were big, but they hadn't blown up.
I
yeah.
mean, back then they hadn't even released an IPO. That
No.
came out only like 6 years ago.
Yep. So like pre-IPO, pre-everything.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
This thing's going to be filming me the entire time you guys are talking.
Hopefully you have
The best looking one. What are you talking
hopefully you have lucky good-looking faces.
about? No, dude, I tell you, like the other stuff that they're talking about, like with 3D printing and drones in Ukraine, is nuts. Thermal, infrared, major parts of the war now. But not only that, it's like they're 3D printing, and this is all over. I mean, even in like the Myanmar area with like the military junta and that whole conflict
Yeah.
down there, they're literally printing their firearms. In Ukraine, they don't need that because we're funding everything.
Yeah, we've given
This is
them
what it feels
billions of
like.
dollars.
Yeah, but at least, I mean, we're floating them, state of the art tech.
Are we floating it though? I think we're just giving it to them, aren't we? We're not expecting it back.
Oh yeah, I don't think we're expecting that. I didn't mean to say it like that. Yeah, we're literally
Yeah.
just donating it. Pretty
Yeah.
much. But
We're keeping them afloat.
yeah,
Yeah,
seriously.
there you go.
Well, there was a Russian general the other day who said that we're pretty much in a proxy war with the West because Ukraine ran out of ammunition a long time ago. And it's like, that's a cold thing to say, dude.
But it's the truth.
And he's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look, I mean, there's all those crazy video footage of like these drones now, just these Mavic Pros, right? We can go buy one right now for $200.
Yeah.
They 3D print a little trigger mechanism on the bottom that fits a mortar round. They pull the pin on the mortar round, so now it's live, and then they just fly it over. They find a foxhole. They totally think they're safe, and then you just see a little bit of movement with the camera, and then just this little projectile just floats away.
Destroys them.
Yeah.
Wild.
It's insane.
Like, that kind of stuff is nuts. Like the ability that we have now to QR codes and I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That would be a crazy
X
idea.
game mode.
Drop that bomb. You need some milk.
Yeah.
It's a lot of milk. It's
Dude,
nuts.
what a world.
Sheesh.
Anything else, Brooke?
No. I mean,
I want to hear something from you.
what do you want to hear from me?
If it's not too wild.
Yeah.
One of the questions. What was the time you feared for your life?
The time I feared for my life? Oh, shit. That's a heavy one.
We don't have to go down that rabbit hole if it's...
A time I feared for my life. I don't know. I don't feel like, I mean, I'm sure there were times as a kid that you just didn't recognize, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've ever been in a position where I was actually afraid for my life. I don't know. When I was living in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, we rolled off a cliff into a like a little river or something in the middle of the
you
winter.
told me you've rolled off roads before.
Yeah, in the
for
middle
my
of
life.
winter before.
Jeez.
But it was in like my mom had an S class, and back then they used to armor them. They used to be armored.
Or she just paid for it.
No.
S
No,
class
if you
like
look
a
back, like,
Mercedes?
Really?
Yeah. So some of the S classes they did it for noise reduction, but they were practically armored. They
Super
were like
heavy.
Yeah, incredibly heavy. So we rolled off
Well, it's like Mark's S class, dude. The windows on that thing are like this thick.
thick. Yeah. And it was an even older one than that. It was probably 2-3 years older than that one And we were driving out in Wilson, slid off the side of the road and rolled off this cliffside into a river, and it landed upside down in the river.
How deep was the river?
Not very deep.
Like, were you guys head under, or was it?
No, like there was water under the thing, but it was like more, there were rocks and stuff, but it was mostly because it was freezing cold, right?
Yeah, I mean-
And so it was like filling this much of the top of the car. And then nobody in the back seat had any seatbelts on. So we were all thrown around and stuff. I remember I had a giant goose egg and like a cut on my head on this side.
How many times
But everybody
did you
was
roll?
fine. I don't know, like 4.
So
And,
did you just slid across? Is that kind of how it all started? You slid on some ice? or-
slid off the side of the road, yeah. And then I'm like sitting there and I'm looking towards the front seat, and I remember everybody's freaking out. I wasn't crying for some reason because I was like freaked out by it, but I noticed that like I was like trying to identify who was driving the car. And from what I can remember, I remember my dad being on the left side and my mom being on the right, but we were upside down. My mom said my dad was driving. Which I'm not sure if that was true because I remember my dad being on the left. I don't know. Anyways, that's like the only remembrance I have of it. I remember sitting.
on your left.
I was standing on the roof.
Oh,
They were strapped into their seatbelts upside down. So I'm like looking through the front of the car like this.
that's crazy. And you didn't fear for your life.
No, but I feel like when you're at that age, that's not what goes through your head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the adrenaline
Like-
is different.
The adrenaline's different, but also like you're so young, you don't look at life as ending ever.
That's true.
That's why you're willing to do more crazy things. You're willing to like
Yeah, you think you're invincible.
yeah, you think you're invincible at the time. So I feel like in that it was like I don't know,
Jeez, dude.
That's the
That's
closest one
wild.
though. That's probably the worst thing. Oh wait, I have one. So we were on our way. I think we were on our way to Cayman Islands, and we're in my mom's jet at the time. She owned like I think it was a G4, G5, and we're on our way out there. And our pilot, his name's Sandy, super cool dude, old though, like a lot older. He ends up having a heart attack, like midway across. So he has a heart attack, and he's like out of it at this point, right? So and there's no co-pilot at the time. My dad jumps up there into the pilot seat, and we take him back to the back hall. And I remember standing there.
Sandy, the pilot.
Sandy, the pilot. And they lay him down in the hallway of the plane, and my mom just sat over and prayed for him.
Because what else can you do?
Yeah. Like my mom and my Aunt Lori, the Sheranians, were on the plane at the same time.
Well, your dad, because doesn't your dad have some flight experience? Or is that... He was only in the armed forces. He never did anything.
No, I never flew. No. Mm-mm.
Okay, because then he's got to be the one on the controls. He's got to be handling the stick anyway,
Ugh.
right?
It was his dad.
His
His dad
was
My dad, yeah. My dad.
You were in this.
No.
Oh, I thought
no.
you were in this.
No.
Sorry, I'm
This is
telling
like
him
long
the
time
Sheranians. This is
ago.
a long time ago when I was a kid.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So who's flying?
So it's on autopilot, right? The plane's on autopilot, but we're getting close to our destination, right? And so we're starting to like channel in, like, hey, our pilot had a heart attack. What do I do? And my dad's like jumping up there, and like if you knew him, his personality's like, I got this, it's fine.
Thomas is just like,
But he's a total kid.
watch this.
Yeah, watch this.
We'll
Yeah.
make it work. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold my beer.
But then he's like in the back and the thing, and we're praying over, and all of a sudden he comes to life. Big gasp of air. I remember. But even then,
ready to
I
land the
remember
plane?
thinking as a kid that it wasn't that big of a deal. But I think it was because of how my dad responded. It wasn't like panic. It was like, no, it's fine. I got this. He just jumps up in the seat.
He was probably drunk.
That's a good sales.
Yeah, probably. Huh? Probably had some liquor in him.
That's a good
This is going to
sales
be just
tactic.
fine, kids.
They only panic when you panic.
Yep.
So don't
No,
panic.
you're right.
Sell it and don't panic.
Yep.
Yeah. They only know if something goes wrong if you act like it.
That's about it, though. Yeah, I don't
Holy
have any
cow.
other stories.
Those are two pretty wild stories.
They're pretty
though.
cool.
Dude,
Like-
wait. What about the shark, dude?
Oh, yeah. I
Let's
didn't
go.
know. Okay,
All
but
right.
see.
Yeah, see, he's triggering
There's
memories
a
that
couple.
he's told me in the
I know.
past.
There's a couple, but what's funny is when you say like times I was scared for my life, I didn't know what was happening in the time. So how could I? You know what I mean? But
Times you
times
cheated
when it
death.
was probably close. Yeah, this is probably the closest.
Okay.
We were living in Florida for I think we were out there for 6-7 months, something like that. And my mom had rented a place. We're out there. Me and my two brothers went out on a kayak out back and went way out. Like probably we were at least 400 or 500 yards offshore. To me, it was way far. And we're free diving, right? Because we were spearfishing at the time. And so we're spearfishing and stuff. We went and put the guns back into the kayak, and then we were just like swimming down because we found this big rock. It was like a giant rock. It was probably half the size of this room, right? And it had like a cove underneath it that all these shark tails were coming out of. Like they were like
Oh shoot.
hibernating under or something. I don't know. There
So
were
you're
a
in
bunch of them.
You're in saltwater then.
Yeah, saltwater. Yeah, the ocean. We're in the ocean. This is in Florida.
So you were in like somewhere in the Keys, like with like.
No. This was, I can't even, I think it was over near Clearwater somewhere.
Okay.
I can't really remember exactly where.
Scary.
But we're free diving down and we're like grabbing them by the tail. Like, so you'd grab like their fin and you'd kind of pull them out. But we thought they were all nurse sharks. And nurse sharks are incredibly docile. Like that, they just run away for the most part. We're like pulling them out of this thing. And I kid you not, everybody, like I'll tell this story and people are like, you're tripping. Like, but I was like 12 years old at the time.
His brother validated this story.
Yeah. And he's got scars to show for it.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So we're like pulling them out and stuff. And then all of a sudden I go down and I'm like younger. So, and it's like 35 feet down. Like it's a ways down. So I'm like clearing. I get to the bottom. I'm already out of breath. So I'm like, I touched it once, pulled it out. My brothers were going down a bunch. I start coming up trying to go for air. Right. So I'm getting up to the top as fast as I can. And, right when I looked down, I saw my brother's like halfway between the ground and the surface of the water. And he's drilling this shark with his fist like this, like punching it right on the nose. Like full on punching
Having a
this thing.
fist fight with a shark.
With a shark underwater.
on his home territory.
But what was wild is because it was coming up after me. And so he saw when he was coming back down, because I was coming up, he's coming down like this, sees the shark, and he just starts brawling this thing.
So he saw it.
He saw it coming.
He was coming after him.
Because when I came up, I had grabbed one of the sharks, and it was a bull shark.
Ah.
And so I'm like heading up towards the surface, and it starts coming out. And so he comes down and starts drilling this thing. So when I like came out, got air, went back down, and I'm looking, and he's drilling this thing towards the bottom of the ocean. And the shark starts doing like donuts like this across the bottom of the And he comes up, and his hands are just shredded.
Because
he was hitting their teeth.
He's hitting the teeth?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Because he was hitting.
Skin was like sandpaper.
That too, yeah. Yeah, I mean, on top it's really rough. On the bottom it's really, really smooth.
Okay.
But yeah, he's drilling this thing. But when he came up, his hands were just bloody as hell.
You better get out of that too if you're smelling blood in the water.
Oh, a ton, yeah.
Holy cow.
It was wild. So we got back in the kayak and headed back.
And so you guys
He's like
guns?
15 years older than me.
Okay.
So he's older.
He's a grown.
He's in his 20s.
He's the one that brought us out there. We were like having fun and stuff. And he's like a diver, like just kind of a brutal dude, right?
He's a
kind of a wild man.
Tailgating his little brother. He's like, Mom's gonna freaking kill me.
Yeah, literally.
He's drilling. Yeah, it was wild. Nobody ever believes that story, but
I didn't believe it when he first told me, and I just like listened, and I was like, he's lying to me.
It's bullshit.
And then I met his brother. It was like a year later, probably, and without provocation, the story just came up, and his brother told the story
He's
like
the
in the
one that's
exact
telling
same
it.
way, and I'm like. I looked at him. I'm like, no shit, you weren't lying to me.
That's what he said.
I thought it was all a lie.
Like, I promise you, dude. I'm not kidding. Landon can tell you the story too.
Yeah.
Landon was there.
Oh, that's right. I forget you and Landon are bros.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Landon was swimming down. Landon was like over a little ways away, but Landon like watched the thing go down and just start spinning on the bottom of the ocean.
Is your brother that fought the shark? Is he a big dude?
Yeah, he's 6'2",
He's a good
6'3".
All right,
He's
I'll take him on my team.
205.
Oh,
I know how big Landon is.
He's a
so
guy
I'm like,
you.
man,
He's
two
a guy
brothers
you
are-
want on your team.
Yeah, he's
a
like,
dangerous dude.
Yeah, he's like an operator and stuff.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Well, not. Yeah, he's done a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
We'll talk off camera.
Yeah, we can talk off
Fair
camera.
enough. That's dope.
Yeah, kind of rad. Anyways,
Shoot. Well, I'm glad you made
how about you, man? Come on.
Scariest, some death-defying moments.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can think of one or two. I had one once. I was a kid. Well, I was like 18, but I was fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
This was in Alaska, and I was working at a set net site, picking up fish.
Will you
salmon.
explain what that is?
A set net site. Oh yeah. So set net site
Set the
is
net.
industrial fishing where essentially the anchor point is on any sort of land mass.
Okay.
So most of the time, set net sites are based off of the mainland, right?
Yeah.
Every now and again, you can find something, out in the little cove, like a quarter mile off the main beach. But by and large, you'll find most set net sites off of a beach head.
Okay.
So it's about 150 fathoms long. So
What's a fathom?
6 foot.
Oh, thank you.
Right?
Did you know that?
I did not know that
Yeah,
either.
There you go. So 150 fathoms long,
You can tell this dude's a
5
wilderness man.
fathoms deep.
Yeah.
But like these, and they use a gill net, and the gill net's a diameter about like that. So the fish will actually try and swim in. They'll recognize that there's something obstructing their path, and they'll try to, they'll exhale. And when they do that, the gills whoop like
Open
that,
and they
and
get stuck.
catches them, and then they are in until we pick them out or until the seals do. So one time, and their fishing game is very strict on closures, which means that you can't be fishing. It's a very regulated environment where they're always making sure that
Not
there are
in
enough
season.
fish to,
Yeah.
Well, even enough fish to spawn for the next season, right? So even while you're trying to make money by catching fish, like you got to invest in the next year's. So that means allowing them past your nets. It's like a $50,000 fine if you have one diamond of a net in the water. And the fishing game guys get a picture of it. So, yeah, and they're no joke about it. They will land their pontoon plane like right at your site, and they will bust you. Everything on buoys has a number, and they'll know exactly who to find. It's very, very precise. So one time I was being towed by a larger boat, and my crewmate and my skipper were in the front boat, and then I was in the back pulling in the net, and that includes pulling in the lead line and the cork line and all the netting in between. So keep in mind, it's like a 30-foot net. The net mesh itself is not heavy, but there is a lead line, which means there are little chunks of metal inside this rope that pulls the wall of net down and keeps it straight even if there's a big current, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean...
That's heavy.
Yeah, I mean, I think each meter is like 3.5 each yard is like 3.5 pounds, but this is a 900, this is a very long
900 foot.
feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like what ends up happening is we're picking up the net in the storm, and the swells are about 10 feet all in. And so I'm only in like a 10-foot little skiff. Like I was, and I'm 18 years old. I was scared out of my mind. And, you know, some kid in Alaska might hear this someday and he's 12 going, this guy ain't nothing. But I was so scared because the swells would get so high. When I was at the bottom of one, I would not be able to see my skipper. And they were in a much larger boat towing me about 15 to 20 feet ahead. We had just like connected my boat to theirs with a rope. So I'm sitting there, and they're like, Nate, we got to hustle because, you know, closure's coming. We got 20 minutes to pull in 900 feet worth of net, and that includes picking the fish out. So they're ignoring me, and I'm trying to tell them to slow down. I'm pulling the net in as much as I can while avoiding the swells. Now, remember, the net is connected to an anchor line that is connected to a part of the beach, right? That does not leave. It doesn't move. So even if there's no net, there's a rope in the water that's held up by buoys and held down by anchors. And that's where you connect the net to next time you go and drop the net out. That net gets very, very tight at certain tide levels. It happened that we were, and like, I mean, you've been around water. It is wild. Like Mother Nature is brutal, and they are like, nature will kill you. So I'm in this boat. The swells are so low, and I'm pulling this net in as quickly as I can, and I've got a knife in one hand because I'm cutting the rope that's connecting the net to our hold line, and then I'm pulling the cork line in on one hand, I'm pulling the lead line in on another, all the while my own boat is fishtailing, and it's getting pulled out from the lead line, and the swell goes down, I lose sight of my guys, swell goes up, I get clotheslined by that lead line, so I get in my neck, chops me out, and throws me out of the boat. So now I'm sinking, dude, it was wild. So head first, I start going down, and on my head, I got to about this point on my chest, but I was upside down. I was like, this is it. I'm going to die. Like, make my peace with God. 18 years old. Here we go. That was quick.
Done.
You know? And it was wild because they have a joke about the rain, the wet gear that you wear up in Alaska. They say it's orange because it's easier to find your body. So like if you're wearing boots, those boots will pressurize at sea level, and then they'll tank you. They work like lead weights, so you just drop to the bottom. You drown. Orange allows the choppers to find you later, I guess. So in my head, I was like, this is it. And then right as that happened again, my feet caught that lead line as it was coming back up. And I was able to do this insane, like 270 degree like abdominal crunch while my legs were pointed this way and my body was hanging off. I had to crunch up like that, fold myself back up over the boat. I was drenched. All my chest was soaking wet from being underwater. And my boss and my crewmate had no idea it happened. Like I was not literally
any idea.
They were still picking fish. I was sitting there just like, that was a wake up call. Cause that was the first time like I'd left childhood and entered into like an adult sense of mortality.
Yeah.
And I realized like, this is it. Like I could legitimately die. And so after that, I was way more careful than I probably needed to be just on account of that one event.
Yeah.
And I pulled the net in, you know, for whatever that's worth.
Good on you. Good man.
And you didn't drown.
Yep.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's wild. That is freaking wild.
Alaska was a great adventure. I would recommend anybody do it, but you just got to be aware that comes with a little bit of terms and conditions may apply. Like there was no running water. There was no, like I was working on kerosene lamps, and we had one time I was pulling in a boat line, and I was by myself. It was kind of my job to do kind of the weird, like one-man team stuff. And I'm pulling this line in at the end of the season. And I just hear this, and I turn around and I see this bear that's like, and Kodiak brown bears are terrifying.
Oh, they're mean too.
They're
mean as hell.
brutal. They're savage. Yeah. So they match polar bears for the largest bear size in the world. And it's just, I mean, at this point, it's not really coming at me aggressively, but it's sort of doing like the pot, like one paw after the other. And I just kind of not breaking eye contact. And I like, I didn't really want to look at the bear in the eye. So I got back on the ATV. I turned the engine over and I just open throttled just as fast as I could. I had to take a corner down a beachhead that was like 200 yards. And I just panic in my mind. And I'm in my head, I'm going, just like, okay, what do I do the moment I get off this ATV? Because I can hear crunch, 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 crunch behind me. And I know, because I love reading dumb stuff that I never thought I'd actually use, that a brown bear can outrun a racehorse.
Yeah.
Like they're physically capable.
Yeah.
Their heartbeat when they're in hibernation is like once every 32 seconds. They've got great cardio and they will run up a mountainside. So all I can think of is, man, if this guy really wants me, he's got me dialed in. So I pull the kill switch off the ATV, yelling Rich, my skipper's name, and every room in our cabin up in Alaska had a sawed-off shotgun. And it's got 3-aught buck inside it, so really big buckshot slugs, right? And I'm just like, Rich, and like I'm running just like a bat out of hell, because I can still kind of hear crunch, 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 and I just run into my cabin door, which is plywood. It was like a huge bear. It's not gonna matter. They'd ripped off a part of our like barn roof before when we'd hung a fish on it. They're not. This is gonna be like ripping paper to them. And but I went in, I just like dove for the shotgun, and I just sat in the corner with my flashlight aimed at
waiting
at the door because I was so scared. Rich
come through, and I have to have my revenant moment.
He does, exactly. I'm sitting here just like, man, you got to be kidding me. I'm leaving tomorrow,
Dude.
Yep. Rich was like, yeah, and then he comes in, he's like, there was a bear on the beach. And I'm like, oh yeah, no shit, Rich. Like, so funny. He was that dude, man. He was cool. He was so cool.
From Alaska.
He was from Washington State.
Okay.
And he was a gym teacher, but he would
Just decided he wanted to go to Alaska.
Well, he'd been doing set net fishing for like 40 some odd years. He'd raised his kids on it. He made a killing off of this job. Worked his tail off, built the whole place from nothing. But like summers, it was his vacation where he made a lot of money. And then he was a gym teacher the rest of the year.
Wow.
It's wild.
He was a cool dude. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he was a really cool guy.
It's a cool life, though.
Yeah, it really is. Every time I feel like you've lived all over the place. Shit.
It's been a fun adventure. Hopefully.
But what's
we're
been
not
good
done.
is like you were in all those places at an older age than I ever was anywhere I lived. Like I feel like everywhere I lived, I was a lot younger. Because I moved here when I was like 14, never left. Like,
there's pros and cons to both. I think. I mean, living and having friendships. I mean, you're plugged in with. I know somebody who knows you everywhere I go.
Really?
Yeah, you're a very plugged in guy. You're a very social guy. Like I always wanted that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was the thing I sacrificed. It was like, and that's why I've stayed as long as I have here, is because I won't always be here. I've got other stuff on mind, but I wanted that home sense where I could see someone I knew at the grocery store. I never had that before.
yeah.
But I mean, even as a teenager, I don't know if I wonder if I squandered the experience of travel, but even when I was a teenager, because I was still kind of an angsty,
Right.
teen. Just like, I wonder if that girl likes me, not really caring about standing in the Coliseum or something,
Right.
Instead, you're just like, man, I hope she's okay. That was dumb.